Hello everyone, and welcome to my analysis video for the World Cup final, which is almost upon us, literally 3 days away. And yeah, I mean, it's really exciting, obviously, as a Springbok fan and as an All Black fan, of course, to be sitting in this position. I mean, what a privilege it is for us to be competing in this final, and what a journey it has been so far in this tournament. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes reflecting back on our semi-final victory over the English, and I've got some views on that, and then looking ahead to the game this weekend and how I believe the Springboks can be triumphant and win the William Webb Ellis Trophy for a fourth time. I mean, it's an incredible contest, obviously, with the All Blacks and the Springboks competing for that fourth trophy. Both teams having won 3 already, and it's a super exciting and epic opportunity for both teams. And so, just looking back on that semi-final, a few things that I want to mention. Look, a lot of the talk in the media and amongst pundits, actually, and just general folk, rugby folk, is that the Springboks were fairly poor on the weekend. They made a lot of unforced errors. They didn't get into the game at all, really. It was like England were able to kind of shut us out, that we lost the physical battle, and that we kind of almost maybe didn't pitch up. And there's been a fair amount of talk of us being, quite fatigued as well, or looking quite fatigued after such an exhausting game against the French. Probably, certainly both emotionally and physically and mentally, of course. So, I mean, there is truth to a lot of what people are saying. I mean, I can't deny that, and it wasn't our best performance. I think that's a given. But I think my feeling is that it was more of a reflection of the English just being really excellent on the day in terms of the way they executed their game plan. I don't think they're receiving enough credit, the credit that they deserve, to be perfectly honest, in terms of how they played that game, how accurate they were in their execution, and they kept things very simple, but what they did do, they did extremely well. And I don't even think they expected to be as accurate as they were on the day. And that, those factors combined with the weather conditions, played a massive role in just making things extremely difficult for us. And unfortunately, they were able to dictate terms in that game, through their fairly boring approach, and very risk averse strategy of kicking out those contestables, and just physically being really in our face and unsettling us. And they did get under our skin. It was obvious, and they affected our decision making. And I don't want to go as far as saying we started to panic, but it threw us off big time. We started searching a bit too much, and we kind of went away from what we are good at. And I think the other factor to think about there is that, it's ironic because that's a game plan that we implemented to great success for a fairly long period of time. And you think back to 2019 World Cup, to an extent we played a similar kind of strategy, employed similar tactics, and then with the British and Irish Lions tour, because the team hadn't been able to develop enough to that point because of COVID, they went back to that as well. And I mean, and that was kind of our blueprint for quite a while. We've obviously not deviated, but we progressed from that quite significantly up till now. But England, in terms of their stage of development with that team, with Borthwick having come in fairly recently, they decided that would be the most pragmatic approach for them in this World Cup. And it is, if you execute it right, it can be very difficult to beat, because you get strangled, you get suffocated. It's a heavily, territory dominated game, but ultimately it's all about execution. And those kicks from England were just phenomenal. I mean, it's hard to think of one single contestable kick that they kicked too deep that wasn't contested by them. And their players in the air were amazing. I mean, in both on the offensive kicks and receiving the kicks. Obviously, Freddie Stewart springs to mind in particular. So guys, I mean, I think my message there is, let's not be too critical on the Springboks in terms of how that game went. The World Cup final is a totally different game. I mean, it's the final of a World Cup. There's not going to be any issues around the Springboks not turning up on the day, okay? Not being emotionally ready, not being physically ready, not being mentally ready. They're going to be more than ready in all 3 of those departments. So we don't have anything to worry about in terms of fatigue, in my opinion, at least. I think we're going to be really good on the day. I think we're going to be ready for the challenge that's going to present itself, and of course, it's going to be a really significant challenge. Yeah, I mean, my feeling on the All Blacks is that yeah, I mean, they're looking good, right? Like, I mean, it's difficult to take much away from them right now. They have progressed nicely in this tournament. People talk a lot about teams needing to peak at the right time. It does feel a lot like the All Blacks are peaking at exactly the right time. And they come into this game high on confidence. They're playing a really balanced game, and they're looking good. They're looking dangerous. They're looking comfortable in what they do. And they're looking pretty unflustered. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a massive challenge for us. And they're going to ask big questions of us. So thinking about how we need to approach the game, I mean, I think, and I believe this will be the talk within the camp this week. It'll be a lot more about what we can control. What are we able to do, rather than worrying too much about what kind of threats the All Blacks are going to pose, because the threats that they are going to pose are going to be varied. Okay, so that's one thing about that All Black team where I will give them credit for. I think they've got a very balanced game plan. I think they can threaten you and hurt you in several different ways. So we need to think about, what are we going to do to hurt them? How are we going to control the narrative of that game? How are we going to take the game to them according to our strengths, right? I think that's really, really important. And I sound like a bit of a broken record because I bring this up so often with so many games, but I really am going to say that it's particularly important with the All Blacks. I would say more important with the All Blacks than any other opposition, and we saw it in a game in Mount Smart in Auckland earlier this year, is that we have to start the game well. We have to start the game confidently. We have to start the game on the front foot. We need to be able to impose ourselves on the All Blacks and dictate terms early on in the game. Obviously, the overwhelming risk for us is that if it goes the other way, and the All Blacks will be striving to do this most definitely. I mean, I really think they're going to go with the blueprint from that Mount Smart game. Then it's a little bit dangerous and potentially scary for us, because if they are able to accrue like a 13, 15 odd point lead within the first quarter of the game, then we really are having to chase the game hard. And we have shown that we are, and ironically, I keep talking about us not really being a very good chasing team and being a much better team if we set the tone and build scoreboard pressure. But we have actually shown in these last two knockout games that we've done the opposite quite successfully, of course. I mean, making up a 6-point deficit against the French and then a 9-point deficit against the English. The concern for me against the All Blacks is I believe the All Blacks are more of an 80-minute team. And I don't think they will fall off as much as both the French and the English did in these last two games, like in that sort of final 15 to 20 minutes. So I don't think we can rely on that, and I think we're just asking too much of our guys to do that 3 weeks in a row. And again, it's got more to do with the opposition that we have against this weekend. So I'm hoping that we are going to start the game well. And really take it to them. I mean, our set pieces are absolute given. I don't need to really go into that. I mean, we need to be strong at line out and at scrum time. Scrums, I think, will be pretty much parity between the two teams, more or less. Certainly with the starting front rows on both teams. I mean, they're pretty well matched, I'd say. I think we can get a bit of an edge on them in the scrums in the second half, provided we can show the right pictures to Wayne Barnes in terms of sort of gaining some dominance there, and I think Wayne Barnes will reward us for that if it's clear and obvious enough. Our line-out is a big one, and we should expect the All Blacks to try and target us there a bit. I can see them contesting. We don't know who's going to start on their side. I wonder if Whitelock will start. I suspect he'll probably come off the bench. But in any event, whether it's Retallick or Whitelock, I mean, they're going to challenge us at line-out time, so we should be prepared for that. And I can see Rassie, coming up with a couple of moves, a couple of variations, to help us in terms of winning that line-out ball. And then, our maul's going to be a big one as well. It's a really important platform for us as a team, and we need to try and get our maul set well early, get it set early and get it set well. And I'm hoping. The English defended our maul really well. It was smart of them because, what they did was they took a bit of a risk in terms of how they defended the first maul that we set up in that game, where you could argue that one of the two of their guys did come in from the side, whether they came in, correctly and with their timing right. from the back, I'm not so sure, but Ben O'Keefe was happy with it, and that set the tone, because it was a risk worth taking. If they conceded that penalty, so be it. You can see that one penalty, then But there was so much to be gained from that if O'Keefe didn't penalise them, which he didn't, of course, because then they just carried on employing their tactic to great success against us. So they got a lot back from that, and kudos to them. Ultimately you've got to play the conditions, you've got to play the ref, you've got to play the ref's interpretations, and you've got to try and use those to your advantage. So England did that quite well, but on another day in another game, i.e. possibly this weekend, with Barnes, it could be refed a bit differently. And the box will be speaking to Wayne Barnes prior to the game about All Black Ball defence. They will be drawing his attention to that. They'll be drawing his attention to closing of the gap in the line out, which was something that was penalised quite heavily in that game, just that final build-up game before the World Cup, when the referee was Angus Gardner, the Australian. And he was very good about that. I think, the All Blacks didn't, All Black pundits were moaning about it, saying it was unfair, and so was Sam Cane, but I don't think it was unfair at all. They were closing that gap. It was a deliberate strategy, and they got pinged for it, rightly so. I think our best bet is obviously, doing well in the set pieces, which is critical. Of course, we need that foundation, like all teams do, but especially us. And then I feel like we need to be direct against All Blacks. I think that's where we're at our best, is if we take them on and we go direct at them. That's not to say that we can't have some variation in our game plan and build some multi-phase play, but I think we can test their defence if we go hard at them around the fringes and fairly close in, just to try and get that gain line advantage. Start putting them a little bit on the back foot, put a little bit of doubt in their defensive system. Where the All Blacks defended really well against Ireland was sort of not in the wide channels, but sort of in the middle to outer channels, where they were really good there. And what they actually did was they kind of left the edges and the fringes around the rucks and stuff. They almost didn't even defend that, because they just knew that Ireland were going to play this intricate passing game where they always like to play out the back and take it 2 or 3 channels out. So they really focused their defence on those areas and getting those dominant tackles in there. So I'm sure they'll be adjusting, obviously, for what they think we're gonna, what we're gonna bring to them and what sort of threat we're gonna pose. But I do think that there are some question marks around the All Blacks' fringe defence on the edges, around the rucks, close to the ruck and stuff. And I think that's where we can get that gain line advantage. And I think we should go for that, because once we get in behind them, then it's a whole nother story. With some quick ball, we can really hurt them, and we can, in all sorts of ways, particularly with quick ball to our outside backs, maybe some kick passes, that kind of thing. Equally, I can see the All Blacks, playing quite a strong tactical kicking game against us. I think they're going to go for quite a few cross kicks. I potentially see them using these sort of contestable kicks from their own 22 as part of their kind of exit game. So they're looking to regain position. They did that to us in the game in Mount Smart, and they were really good at it, actually, and they won those. So we won several of those aerial contests. So the aerial contests are going to be massive this weekend. We are going to have to be better there. We did let ourselves down a bit against the English, so that's going to need to improve quite a bit. But yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good about the game. I like the fact that we are underdogs for this game. I think most people would agree, even though we are the number 1 ranked side in the world and we are the world champions, just because of the mood after our narrow escape against the English and the way the All Blacks just smashed Argentina to pieces, basically. I think the general sort of feeling is that we're going into this game underdogs, which is awesome for us. There's going to be no shortage of motivation. Rusty and Jacques will get the troops fired up big time, and I've just got this feeling. I've got this destiny feeling about the Springboks. That it's kind of already almost written that we're going to win this World Cup, and I really hope I'm right. And just want to urge all Springbok fans. Of course, I know everyone is going to, but just get behind this team as much as you possibly can. Don't worry about the noise that's out there around Tom Curry and Bongi Mwanami and so-called racist allegations and this and that. It's all garbage. It's all rubbish. It's all noise. That's all it is. Okay, let's take a leaf out of the book of the Bok camp themselves, where they'll just be focusing on this game. And as supporters, we just need to get behind them and give them everything that we've got, kind of thing, from a support point of view. And let's hope that we come out on the right side of the results on Saturday. I think it's going to be an epic final, and super excited about it. So hope you all enjoy it, guys. Thanks very much. Ciao. Bye.